I am tired. Not just because I was working in the sun for most of the day. I don't make anybody tired. But I'm tired of seeing people try to desperately defend the rioters. I know their narrative's collapsing, which I guess is a good sign. That stuff I warned about, where I said, somebody's going to get shot, somebody's going to get hurt because the rhetoric was out of control, and dumb people take rhetoric to heart. Well, it happened. It wasn't a flashpoint, thank God. But I won't even say his name. Dude with an AK, I believe in the interview he said something about Trump supporters being too pussy to do anything about him. Just some dumbass kid walks up to a vehicle that they're surrounding and harassing, fires 5 shots into it, and then the vehicle driver shoots back. Big surprise. Is the driver a Trump voter? Don't know. It doesn't matter. Because when you block traffic and surround a vehicle and threaten people, and then they, and you shoot at them particularly, but they respond, I guess violently, for lack of a better word. It's like what does that mean with what'd you expect? I'm not some sort of brainy genius that I could predict that this was happening. Anybody could. I'm not the only one saying it. I just happen to be making videos with it. Six has been saying it somewhat. Tim Pool, surprisingly, he's more optimistic than I am. But what do you want me to say? You guys made people believe insane stuff, and they went and they acted irrationally based on bad information you gave them. You applauded them for blocking traffic and surrounding people. You covered up the fact that there were lots of violent agitators in the mix. And you made excuses for them when they were called out. And now you've got otherwise innocent people screening for effectively domestic terrorists. And then they occasionally do stupid shit. Like shoot your AK into a guy who's just in his car trying to get through. And then he gets shot. Do I think he shot at the guy? Maybe. Maybe not. Maybe he just shot the vehicle. He thought he was like disabling the vehicle or something. Doesn't matter. You don't block traffic. And, this isn't some checkpoint in Iraq. The audacity to think that you can ruin someone's night, ruin someone's day by blocking their shit because your cause is so righteous. Because you know that they're either, opposed to you or just not conscious enough. And that's why it's okay to, as you say, inconvenience. You're not inconveniencing people at this point. You're terrorizing them. Someone rolls up to a mob of people and they just want to go through to go home, to go wherever they're going. I don't care where they're going. Doesn't matter. And then you surround the car and you start... something's in my eye. And you start banging on it and yelling stuff at them. You're mad because they're there. They should be mad you're there. Maybe they are mad. They got the right to be mad. And you got these people use the rhetoric that makes these people seem so... It just ferments that self-righteousness. And some jackass with his AK shot at the vehicle and then promptly died. Got shot back. Did he deserve it? I don't know if he deserved it. I don't blame the guy who shot him. Of course not. He doesn't know. He doesn't give a shit about your cause. All he knows is an angry mob of people have surrounded his vehicle, and now someone is taking an AK and unloading it into his car. You guys surprised this happened? Shouldn't be. Not because I was warning you, but because it's common sense. So, I don't know who this video is addressed to. If you're watching this, you'll probably agree with me. And you just want to hear somebody say it. We're sick of not saying it. We're sick of being the silent. It's not even a silent majority. It's just an entire segment of the population silenced by left-wing violence. You know, unpleasantness. Might lose your job. Might get harassed online. Might get doxxed. Might lose friendships. Because you don't see things the way these people see things. And that's wrong. That's wrong. And if people on the right had done that at any point, I mean, I don't know if it was like that in the 90s with the religious right or anything, if they were like that. It's wrong then. This is wrong now. Now you got open communists advocating, they're going to crush the capitalist imperialism or some crap like that. I don't know what these kids have been taught in school. I mean, I see people I went to school with who believe in that nonsense. I mean, yeah, I did have a couple socialist teachers, or say professors. Had to, write like a Marxist if I wanted to pass what was it, U.S. History 2 or whatever I was taking. The teacher was a jackass. But, I wrote honestly, and I wasn't super politically motivated. I definitely didn't have a good grasp on things like I feel like I do now. And I wrote like a moderate because I thought, I don't want to be hard right or anything, so I'll just write like a moderate. Kept getting lower and lower and lower and lower grades. And I was panicking. I was like, what am I going to do? I went in to see the guy in his office. And he just, was like, oh, here's your chances. Here's this other thing. Pay attention in class. And it literally wasn't until I stopped taking notes on what the details of the history were. Because the details of the history requires, your own analysis of what's going on. Or at the very least, a retelling of what happened. Because that's really what the responsibility of history is basically retell what happened. And, you can do an analysis, but that's not the core of what makes, history history. I stopped looking at it that way. I looked and I wrote down what were his opinions on these things. It was far left nonsense. But I wrote those down. And the next test I took, because these were like written tests where you had like a blue book and an exam, I regurgitated all of his bullshit, like talking point down the list. All right? It was the shortest blue book I'd ever filled out. It was the least informed. It was the least, it was honestly the least I had studied. Wrote that out, wrote out his opinions, fed his own shit back to him. A+. Not failing the class now. That's what I know. Something ain't right with higher education. I don't want anybody doing that. I don't want anybody on the left, anybody on the right. Especially history teachers. But that's the kind of people who train these kids out there. I don't call them kids, they're my age. Screaming like toddlers who didn't get that extra scoop of ice cream. Just upset. The audacity that pepper spray was used during a riot. Like if the people next to you were throwing firebombs and stuff and trying to break down the fence and pulling things with rope and generally not dispersing. The amount of restraint. See, everybody, they like posting those little clips, like I had said before. A little clip of, an officer taking a swing. A little picture of somebody getting arrested with this shocked and terrified look on their face. I love that. Some people eat it up because if you feel like you're a victim, you're going to eat that up. Because that just plays into the narrative of, the left being victims. But if you watch the extended video, I can't believe how much patience these federal officers have. I mean, I guess you kind of zen it. I mean, some of these guys are like, they got if they have a BORTAC or a, I don't remember what the name of the U.S. Marshals Special Forces group is. It might be SOG. I don't remember. They do have an emblem and an icon, but there's like a U.S. Marshals Special Forces essentially. But BORTAC, that's pretty much elite police. Think like GSG-9 level elite. They're pretty tough dudes. They go up against the cartel guys who are. They make these Antifa guys look like absolute pussies. But the BORTAC guys, I mean, they're so patient with these jackasses. It's one thing if it were foreigners, you kind of don't expect them to understand. You see this kind of shit happen at like embassies and stuff, and people freak out. They're like, people protesting in other countries when you're on a diplomatic visit and they're rioting, and you're like, well, whatever. They don't know. They don't even speak the language, so they don't want to have a conversation. They just want to be mad. Fine. But it's when it's your own countrymen. They're throwing firebombs at you, and they're throwing fireworks at you, and they're cursing you out, and they're calling you a Nazi, and they're trying to overrun and burn down the federal building you're in. And you just want to go home. You're just an agent, and now you've been tasked with protecting this building in a city that doesn't want you there. But you got to be there because you have to preserve the Union. And your fellow countrymen are cursing you out, and I mean, it's through ignorance, but that still doesn't make it any less hurtful. I mean, a lot of these guys are ex-vets, and especially these BORTAC guys. A lot of them are like special operations veterans. They went into some shithole in the Middle East to stop a terrorist who was going to, build a dirty bomb to, fuck up the very city that they're protecting. They watch their brother's blood be spilled, and that's how these people repay them. They're just convinced they're victims. They're shielded from the evils of the world by these guys, and then when these guys are seen, when they see them, they just hate them. I don't know what to say. That's just awful. Secret police. BORTAC's not secret police. They got their badge numbers right on their friggin' uniforms. They haven't left the federal courthouse area. They have the right to. I'm surprised they didn't clear them out with like a proper phalanx, and they've been unbelievably restrained. Unbelievably restrained. To the point where I'm questioning if the restraint's actually immoral. And it might be in some ways. But I think it's because of the media war. I mean, there was an ABC headline today. Oh my God, I'm trying to remember what it said. It said something about protests turned, into explosives being thrown and 47 officers being injured. And it was like, I think it was Seattle. And it said, as peaceful protests intensify. It's not a peaceful protest at that point. The peace intensifies, and apparently people get hurt from just it being too peaceful. That's total bullshit. I know it. People have been paying attention know it. And now the middle, now they know it. It ties into the COVID thing, too. They'll criticize people for showing up to a what was it, like a church country music festival or something. CNN on a story about them spreading. I think it was NBC News, CNN. I forget. They're all the same at this point. They'll criticize people for that. Within the protests, they're not criticizable. It's like they're holy or something. It's ridiculous. But I don't know. Felt like getting that off my chest. Maybe I'll hit another subject later. Something more fun. I'm tired of talking about this stuff. Seeing them burn cities down and stuff. Glad it's on the West Coast. Not that New York's doing any better. Well, I'm not in New York, so. Philly's a little different. Philly's got people, and really a lot of it's because of basically because of the suburb situation, and our state gun laws are, thank God, a little looser than the surrounding states, really. People in suburbs ain't gonna tolerate this shit. But there's nothing they can do if they try to burn down the federal courthouse in Philadelphia. What are we going to do? We can't show up and defend it. Feds will have to be defending it on their own. And then if the DA basically says he's going to prosecute federal officers, and then the Philadelphia police can't be involved, not unlike Portland. Portland, it would be the job of the cops to disperse that riot. The federal officers, it's not their job. And they complain, oh, they don't have riot gear. They're not trained. You know what they're trained to do? BORTAC? They're trained to kick in doors of human traffickers and rescue children. That's what they're trained to do. And they're doing this. You've taken them away from their jobs to protect a federal courthouse. Because why? Because why? You're going to lose an election in November? Is that really why? It's infuriating. It's not the way you treat another person. It's not the way you treat another American. These people aren't acting American. I don't know how to describe it. Should have a certain amount of respect for law enforcement, especially guys like BORTAC guys, U.S. Marshals. They're not the alphabet boys you always joke about. I mean, I've got my issues with ATF and the FBI and like we definitely have too many agencies. I mean, nobody likes the DEA, right? BORTAC guys, you're gonna call them Nazis? Ridiculous. Insulting, really. All right, that's all.